Hello and welcome to the Gorilla Guide webinar to discovering what AI, ML, and analytics can do for your company. Thank you so much for joining us on this special webinar event. On the event here, you'll learn from experts at Pure Storage and Atempo. We've got a cool event lined up for you. The idea here with the Gorilla Guide webisode is to have a fast-paced, fun-filled, educational, but relatively short event where you can get all your questions answered and learn about some hot new technologies. In fact, you should be able to watch this easily on a short lunch break. On the event here, we'll also have some cool prizes. I'll talk about those in just a moment. We want your questions there in the questions pane, and we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A panel with our expert presenters at the end of the event. We encourage you to socialize the webisode with the hashtag Gorilla Guide, and we have a number of resources available there for download in the Handouts tab. The prizes on the event today are 3 Amazon $100 gift cards. You must be live in attendance to qualify and also meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions that you can find there in the Handouts tab. I'll be announcing the winners periodically during the event, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. All prize winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media. And of course, you always have the option to make a donation to a selected charity like the ones you see here on the screen. We've been making donations on behalf of generous prize winners in partnership with the Gorilla Guide Book Club. You can download free educational IT books at gorilla.guide. These are full length, they're fun, they're completely free, they're all electronic. Download them to your mobile device, read them at your leisure, and it's a great way to learn about some of the hottest topics in enterprise IT today. The hashtag for today, as I mentioned, is Gorilla Guide. Over on Twitter, you can follow Actual Tech Media there as well, and your moderator, me, David M. Davis. You can subscribe to all the Actual Tech Media channels on YouTube, Facebook, and the 10 on Tech podcast, as well as our LinkedIn channel where we post all of our latest and greatest content. We do have an all-new Gorilla Guide podcast as well that I want to call your attention to. You'll find a link to that there in the Handouts tab. And at the end of the event here, you'll be automatically redirected to the landing page for this new podcast. We've already published our first 3 episodes, maybe more by now actually. And just as a preview on these episodes, you'll learn about Kubernetes at the edge, 5G, distributed Kubernetes in retail environments, distributed cloud, and Kubernetes as a service. Those are just a few of the topics we plan to cover. You'll be learning about the full gamut of enterprise IT topics and hot new innovations on the Inside the Guide podcast. We encourage you to check that out. Wherever you download and listen to your podcasts, you'll find the new Inside the Guide podcast. Now, before we get started with our first presentation, I want to set the stage here and just talk briefly about what AI, ML, and analytics tools can do for you and your business. The first statistic that I want to share here is that 53% of AI projects successfully make it from prototype to full production. And that's not a great statistic, unfortunately. That means roughly half of all AI projects actually make it into production. And I'm sure a lot of time and a lot of treasure was spent on these types of AI projects. So when you plan out an AI project, make sure that you have your goals in mind, that you're choosing the right technology and the right partners to make it a success, because you don't want to be part of the 47% of AI projects that are a failure. Another one here is that 80% of modern technologies in the future will be based on AI and ML. So we're talking about 2022, which really is next year. And so 80% of those technologies have some kind of AI and ML behind them. And so that's why today's topic is just so timely when you're planning new applications and new services from your company. And then when it comes to key use cases for AI, ML, and analytics tools, big data, business analytics, engineering analytics, business insight, those are some of the high-level use cases, but also security, automated detection and prevention, preventing ransomware. These technologies are also used more and more in healthcare and even conversational AI. There's just so many different use cases. You'll learn about some of them on the Gorilla Guide webisode today. And with that, it's my pleasure now to introduce you to our first presenter on the webisode. Welcome, Mr. Justin Emerson, Data Architect at Pure Storage. Justin, take it away.
Hello, everybody. My name is Justin Emerson. I'm a data architect with Pure Storage here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And today I'm here to talk to you about how to build enterprise AI with Pure Storage's AIRI. So, what are the challenges of enterprise AI today? Well, first off, I love this quote here. Took 3 weeks to develop the model, but it's been more than 11 months and it's still not deployed. This is the biggest challenge of enterprise AI. It's not actually, at this point in time, the development of the models. There's a lot of models out there. The revolutions in transfer learning have made it a lot easier to deploy models, or rather to develop models for your own organization. But how do we roll these out into production? How do we connect these to our existing systems? And how do we support the ongoing development and maintenance of these models? So the important thing is creating a model isn't the same as using it, right? So let's use the example of software development. It's taken a very long time, right? We've been developing software for 50 years, and we've sort of come up with a good list of things that we should do, things that we shouldn't do, methodologies to follow. And it's very complex, right? Modern software development is there's a lot of different parts that go into it, right? We've got automated tests that run against code. You have QA workflows, and you have release managers, and you have all these source control systems like Git. And all of these have been developed over the decades from their predecessors and their previous methodologies, because we've over time learned that this is the best way that we currently know of to develop software. But we haven't really come up with those same tools for machine learning. So today, the supporting elements of machine learning are fairly brittle. So today, when we talk about data scientists, a lot of them are coming to this without necessarily a software development background. So data scientists are not always trained software engineers. They don't always follow good DevOps practices. A lot of them, for good reasons, are concerned with getting results out and building the best model that they can. And moreover, in a lot of organizations that I've worked with, these tend to work in silos separate from IT, which means that IT doesn't really get to understand at a fundamental level what is going on with these models and how they can support them. And the rapid rate at which all the tools and model development methodologies are changing means that it's very difficult to standardize on a particular platform or a particular workflow or a particular framework, because all of this is still a very immature space, which makes the whole apparatus fairly brittle. And so that's why it really helps to have a strategic platform that is flexible and can support many different kinds of enterprise AI, both from a development standpoint and running it in production. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to provide business value, right? The model is not just a model for the model's sake, right? The idea is that not only do you need to collect the data, explore the data, and then train a model, and then qualify the model, and then actually deploy it in production, you are doing all of this in order to solve a particular problem for your organization, whether it's a business problem or a process improvement or a new product that you're trying to roll out that involves machine learning. All of these things are in service of this particular business value. And this life cycle is what we call ML ops. So sort of analogous to DevOps in software development, ML ops is a similar concept for machine learning. And so what we here at Pure Storage, in partnership with NVIDIA and others, have developed is a platform that we call AIRI, or AI Reference Infrastructure. And AIRI is a solution that targets many different sizes, many different kinds of customers. And it is a enterprise AI at any scale platform that you can deploy either on-prem or in the cloud in order to build a AI center of excellence within your organization. This helps keeps the teams that you have productive. It helps accelerate the time to value. It helps you move workloads from development into production and how you maintain them on an ongoing basis. And the heart of AIRI is the Pure Storage Flashblade platform. So Flashblade is architected to meet the needs of modern data. It does this by being both a fast object and a fast file solution. In this space, in the machine learning space, in the data analytics and pipeline space, there's a lot of use for both file and object. More and more we see applications moving toward object in order to play better in the public cloud. And Flashblade is a fully S3 compliant object store that is extremely fast, helps support these applications when you're running them on-prem, as an example. It targets a lot of different kinds of workloads and a lot of different kinds of computing, AI and machine learning being one of the key components of what it's designed to do. Flashblade is very simple to run. It doesn't take a PhD to run it. And once you've deployed Airy, you get all sorts of really great stuff, such as you can store your Docker registry for all your various containers, maybe running for running frameworks or other things on your Flashblade. We also have a Jupyter Hub as a service with Flashblade solution that you can find on GitHub. We support a lot of the open source industry standard monitoring infrastructure, such as Prometheus and Grafana. And we also have a tool called the RabbitFile Toolkit, which was developed actually for customers doing AI and machine learning workloads, which are a set of traditional Unix utilities like ls, find, etc., that are parallelized in order to speed up these operations. When running, when working with data sets of millions of files and needing to change permissions on millions of files, it helps if you can do that in minutes rather than hours. If you'd like to learn more about Airy, you can follow these links. I have QR codes here for those of you who have a smartphone, which is probably most of you. You can also reach me at juemerson@purestorage.com. This is an area that I specialize in and would love to talk to you about how Pure Storage, in conjunction with NVIDIA and our other partners, can help you bring enterprise AI to your organization with Airy. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Justin. Really appreciate your presentation there. We just brought up a poll question for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the Pure Storage solution? And I'll leave this up here for a few moments to, judge your impact or interest and get your feedback on what you learned about the Pure Storage Airy solution, how it can help you with AI. And we want to hear, what you're interested in. What's your next step for this? Justin is waiting for your feedback and also waiting for your questions, because we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session after our next presentation, after our second presentation on the Gorilla Guide webisode today. So we're not taking questions right now, but we're queuing up those questions for the Q&A panel discussion. So get your questions in now, and I'll give everyone a moment here to respond to the poll question that's on the screen, and then we'll move on. All right. Thank you to everyone there who responded to the poll. We appreciate your feedback. Also, thank you for the excellent questions that are rolling in. We appreciate those as well. We'll be using those in our Q&A session. But with that, let's go ahead and move on now to our next presentation on today's webisode. It's my pleasure now to introduce Mr. Mike Oakes, Senior Pre-Sales Engineer at Atempo. Mike, take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Let's get started. So first, I want to thank the team for inviting us today. These webisodes are always fun. I am Mike Oakes. I am a solutions architect with Atempo, and I've been in the compute and storage industry for almost 35 years now. What I'd like to do when I do these is I'm going to do a brief overview here of managing data landscapes. So actually, more precisely, how Myriad with AI enables the management of organizations' data landscapes. So real quick, all right, to manage an organization's assets, or that asset's data, I should say, one first has to understand the data in its entirety. So analytics from Atempo enables professionals the ability to learn and act upon results. And we put this first bullet here, because once you understand the data landscape, you can then begin to take action upon managing it, and managing it efficiently and effectively. And secondly, Atempo's been managing large petascale environments now for years. And I don't mean a couple of petabytes here and a couple of petabytes there. We're talking hundreds of petabytes in size, backup, archive, and management, and so forth. But how does that translate into the end user or corporation? Right? So think about lowering one's costs, right? Taking advantage of what's available, efficiently managing assets you have in today's workflow while ensuring you can handle tomorrow's challenges. And Myria is truly a heterogeneous infrastructure appliance, right? But it utilizes dissimilar or agnostic vendor storage or appliances. It allows you to build a heterogeneous workflow, heterogeneous pattern, so to speak, across all these dissimilar storages. And finally, this last one's a big one. I think it's important. Your data, your solution, your facility. Nothing leaves and comes back to a Tempo in the way of analytics. Solution package comes on site, you install it, it's set up, we help you set it up. But after that, all information stays with you. Nothing goes to the cloud unless you decide to push it there. Nothing comes back to a Tempo. So what did we see as some of the challenges, or did a Tempo see as some of the challenges need to be addressed in today's data-centric environments, right? First, of course, locate the data, understanding the data landscape, right? Got to understand it before you can manage it. And secondly is identifying that data. And I'll go into a little bit more of it in just a few minutes. And the next two really go hand in hand. So reducing data silos and optimizing workflow, right? And this could be something as simple as making sure a user's data and the compute servers are local to each other. There's no sense of wasting infrastructure, wasting network, having them in two different locations if you don't have to. Resources load and run quicker, freeing up more compute cycles. It's a catch-22 there, right? So this way you don't tax the network or anything, any infrastructure unnecessarily. And then finally, of course, understanding that data landscape and effectively manage the assets means a better return on an organization's investment. Reuse things that I have, reuse things that I thought were really hot, but what they're not. Maybe something in New York is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. is running super busy, maybe a compute cluster. But from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., it's idle. I need to know that. And it'd be good to know because I can put other assets there to run and use that compute cycle and that compute storage. So important to understand, again, understand the entire data landscape. So how do we begin to address these challenges, right? Well, the first, of course, you see here, we need to discover where's my data? What's my data, right? Inventory my data, i.e. we need to discover all my data across my organization's footprint. And then, of course, you need to start to analyze it. What's my data doing? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is it duplicate, anomalies, and so forth? What is all of this data? What's the metadata that with it? How old is it? How do I start looking at all this? And then it comes into start to making some decisions. What should I do with my data? What can I do with my data? Maybe you want to make some decisions as simply as building a better dashboard for data management, or start to make decisions on some business metrics on where data needs to reside, how much needs to reside, and so forth. So you start to build those up. And the last part is act, right? Now you can execute on those decisions you just made. So you can act upon them. With Myria for AI, you can act upon them manually to start with. Now you can start to have those actions become automatic. Or some you maybe want to do automatic and some you want to do manual. But you have that flexibility, that granularity too, of getting to certain feature sets or certain data sets and just acting upon those. How do you know? This comes to discovery phase, right? How do you know what you have scattered across what storages? And most organizations today that have been using and consuming storage space, wherever it resides. And it's not anyone's fault, right? It's just, we have a project here, we're under time crunch, we have the storage over here, let's use it. So how do we start to discover what we have? Where's it located? How do we easily present it? Look at the key metrics, effectively utilize the assets we have at our disposal. That's what the discovery process starts, right? And you can create your own dashboards. This one's an example. Yes, you can create your own dashboards for optimizing your own resources. Again, it goes to your site. We get nothing back. So set it up the way you want, organize it the way you see best for your particular environment. So after we start to discover, then we start to analyze, we want to decide, right? So we're going to find those silos and data, right? But what we're looking at, so is it hot? Is it not? Is it local to where I'm running it, or is it not? What's the data usage? What's its age? When was last modified? Is it sitting on tier 1 when it should probably be sitting on tier 3? Duplicate files is always a big one. How much space are we wasting with the same file in 14 different locations across 6 different pieces of storage across the organization's data landscape? Detect anomalies is a big one. And I use this example. You can be detecting anomalies maybe like every Tuesday or every night. Monday through Friday, we're learning, or the analytics is learning, hey, you get a dump at 6 p.m. every night, a dump of data, X amount in size. When you get the data, you don't care. It's when you don't get it, you care. So understanding and learning about workflows and patterns, and then recognizing something's an anomaly and alerting on that anomaly. And of course, the last one, tagging data, group insights, run tasks. So you can think it's tagging for, hey, you know what? I want this archived. I want this backed up. I want this deleted. I want this moved. And you can start to act upon those decisions, right? So that's the analyze and decide phase. And then we move into acting upon it, right? Once we've made all those decisions, what are we going to do when we're acting, right? Maybe it's something as simple as we're going to move, copy, or delete data. Maybe this one says prevent crypto lockers. Maybe we're detecting an anomaly or access pattern in the file system. Now, a weird data pattern access is happening in a certain amount of files. Somebody should notify the administrator, something's going on. You need to take a look here. Something's not right. And of course, take ROI actions. That just encompasses all of this, right? So the ability to, maybe I need to compress some storages. I can take advantage of what I have. Instead of buying 3 new storage platforms, I have some idle storage. I have so many duplicates here. Let's delete some of those duplicates, move things off because I haven't been access to a slower piece of storage, and I can use that storage as a tier 1 or a tier 2 piece of storage instead of having to go buy new storage. And that falls right into data tiering, right? Smart tiering. I want to put things in certain locations and against certain criteria, whether it be age or access pattern, whatever, but I want to move it from tier 1 to tier 2. Oh, and it hasn't been accessed after so long. Again, move from tier 1 to maybe an archive or to tape or something along those lines. And the last one, of course, with equipping to act, is managing hybrid clouds. Maybe have data now in S3, and I'm taking a look at it, and some of it's hot, and it's being utilized or recalled a lot. I don't want it up there. I want to bring it back and let it sit locally, so I'm not paying those egress charges. Or maybe I want to move it from one cloud to another. You can do that. We can use cloud as source and target, not only we're scanning them from an AI perspective, but also we can move data in and out of them from a migration perspective, a sync perspective, or maybe an archive or a backup. So you can take a full advantage of your entire infrastructure, hybrid and all. So you're probably asking yourself, how do analytics, are they most useful in what environments? And the answer really is, it's just about all organizations can benefit from analytics. And you see on the slide deck here, education, research, retail and transport. I'm not going to read them all, but you get the understanding here. All verticals, all resources can definitely benefit from understanding their data landscape, understanding the assets, where they reside, how they're being used. And then real quickly, what do these markets or these verticals gain from analytics, right? Enhanced data management, improve utilization of current resources, localized data, users, reduce infrastructure overhead, improve end-to-end performance and production times. All of this is a benefit, right, that you get from analytics, but also the ability to inventory and specify or tag your own data. Get insights onto what's happening, where it is. Spot and stop anomalies. We talked about both, not getting a drop of data when you thought you were going to get it, unusual data access patterns, attacks. And now you can start to organize all of this information, all of these data sets and pools into a more efficient workflow that meets and exceeds, hopefully, the SLAs of your organization, right? And you may be doing those against business metrics or some type of SLA or usage pattern, but you get to understand all that. You get to formulate a more cohesive workflow pattern from the information you glean. And all of this, what does this mean? Reduce CapEx, align data usage to SLAs, optimizing not just workflows, but an organization's consumption of resources, disk, tape, cloud, network, right? Reducing the infrastructure burden, reduces cost, but also increases user experience, which is important. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to the team here for questions.
Excellent presentation. Thank you so much, Mike. We do have some questions for you coming in from the audience. We're going to hold those for our panel discussion here that's coming right up. In the meantime, I brought up a poll question for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the Atempo solution? And so let me leave this up, give everyone a chance here to respond with your questions and respond in the poll. And we are queuing up the best questions for our panel discussion here, where we'll bring back in Mike and Justin both. And we'll kick that off here in just a moment. But let me give everyone a chance to respond to this poll first. All right. Thank you to everyone there who responded to the poll. We do appreciate that. And thank you for the great questions. Don't forget about our best question prize as well. We'll be contacting those prize winners after the event. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and move on. Now it's time for our Q&A panel discussion. I'm excited now to bring back in Mr. Justin Emerson from Pure Storage and Mr. Mike Oakes from Atempo. First question I'll start off with is for you, Justin, at Pure Storage, and they're asking what applications are moving towards object storage.
Well, Flashblade, by implementing the same S3 API that you can leverage in the public cloud, allows us to take advantage of how many applications are being rewritten in order to work better there. So, for example, in the data analytics space, Spark is leveraging S3 now. We've seen customers using S3 with Cloudera or PrestoDB or Vertica. Lots of different things are leveraging S3 now. And so partly that's because they're being driven to do that in order to run more cost effectively in the public cloud. But also for a lot of applications, object is just a better way to address storage. It makes more sense for their particular kinds of workflows. And so we take advantage of that by basically being a high performance on-premise object store. And that allows customers to use the same application architectures in both the public cloud and on premises.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, so many applications today are moving more towards the utilization of object storage. Next question is for you, Mike, at Atempo. They're asking what type of data can be collected through the Discover process and with the Discover agent that you talked about?
So there's quite a few things we talked about you can glean from all that, right? But think of it, relative path on a volume, last known full path, all that metadata information, bad encoding, maybe even tagging, dates, B time, stat X, M time, C time, A time, an object size, its owner, right? The user or the owner, right? Also inode and volume, duplicate files, basic hash calculations if using metadata in bulk. We also talked about the ability to what's hot and what's not. So gleaning all that information is available in that Discover phase.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it sounds like a lot could be learned in that Discover phase. Much more efficiency could be gained and intelligence could be gained out of the data. Next question, back to you, Justin, at Pure. They're saying here, you mentioned that Flashblade was cloud native storage. So can I use cloud apps with Flashblade?
Yes, actually, Flashblade is by implementing the same kinds of protocols that you could use in the public cloud, specifically S3, but also one can use NFS or SMB as well. You can leverage Flashblade as a cloud adjacent storage. So what would cloud adjacent storage be? That would be where, say, for example, you're leveraging a Flashblade across ExpressRoute or Direct Connect or something like that. And that has a lot of advantages. Pure Storage ourselves, we leverage cloud services for many different things, but being a storage company, we run our own storage and we connect that into the public cloud, and that has saved us a lot of cost. And it's also allowed us to improve the performance of our applications. Another big advantage of doing that is it allows you to do multi-cloud much more effectively. So by having your storage be cloud adjacent, you can make it adjacent to multiple clouds. And so it can allow you to leverage the strengths of different cloud providers with the same data sets.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, so many companies are moving to cloud native apps, and it sounds like this would be a great solution. Next question back to you, Mike. I'm sure you've heard this before. They're asking about cost. What's the cost specifically of the analytics solution?
I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's worth repeating. Analytics from Myria or with Myria is coming at no cost to our partners that purchase Myria. It's going to come standalone, as I mentioned, in Q3 and Q4. And then Q1 of 2022, we're going to roll it completely into Myria. Again, no cost. And we did this for a couple specific reasons, but the biggest one is to effectively manage your data landscape, you first have to understand it and all of the data wherever it resides.
Thanks, Mike. It's awesome to throw in that sort of analytics analysis with Atempo Miria. So thank you for doing that. Next question is for Justin at Pure, and they're asking what workloads other than analytics are supported on Flashblade Unified Fast File and Object Storage?
Well, I like to say that if it's an application that is dealing with data that's been generated by a machine or an algorithm or a sensor or an application, something like that, that makes it a great fit for Flashblade, right? There's a distinction of what I would say is user data and machine data, and Flashblade is really designed for machine data. So whether that's next gen analytics platforms like Elasticsearch or Splunk or other data pipelines, kind of things like I've mentioned, Spark and PrestoDB in the past, and then machine learning, right? Like we've talked about here. So if you're using, workflows like with TensorFlow or PyTorch or things like that, those are all great use cases for Flashblade. But we also, handle a lot of different areas as well. So that might be healthcare, financial services. There's a lot of different places where Flashblade can play, but I like to say if it's data that's machine generated, then it's probably a good fit for what we can offer.
Absolutely. Thanks, Justin. And then Mike, back to you at Atempo. They're asking here, can analytics help with tiering?
Yes, and I think we talked about that a little bit. Understanding where things are hot or maybe they're old. I want to tier them from tier 1 to tier 2, or maybe tier 2 to cloud, or on-prem cloud, private cloud, or something on tape. Multiple copies, you can tier off different copies at different locations. Maybe I want to do an archive copy to cloud, but I also want to put it on tier 2. So you can do this smart tiering. It's enabled within Miria for AI.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. And then, Justin, back to you at Pure Storage. What are some of the trends in storage and AI that you're seeing?
Well, I think that data sets are only increasing, right? So it's not like anybody is trying to do AI with less data. It's more that people are trying to do it with more. So the biggest trends, I think, is how do I manage data at scale? How do I lay out data at scale? How do I effectively handle the life cycle of that data? And so there's been a lot of movement in that space, but I think that part of our approach to that is that the fewer tiers that you need to have, the better. And so our approach being that how do we make Flash, cost effective, high performance, and easily scalable? I think those are things that fit into those trends because it allows people to create larger data sets, or rather to train on larger data sets, allows people to keep these very expensive, high performance systems that are with accelerators fed in order to maximize their investment. If you're feeding that with through a little straw, you're not really getting the most out of it. So I think that's a key part of how we are addressing the trends in storage and AI.
Thanks for your insight there, Justin. And then final question goes back to you, Mike, at Atempo. They want to know, do you support Wasabi and Azure?
We do, as well as Swift, just about anything that talks S3 protocol, as well as Amazon S3, Glacier, Deep Glacier. We support all of those. So that was a great question. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mike and Justin, for your insight, for answering all those questions. I'm afraid we've run out of time here in our live Q&A session. We'll have to route the remaining questions over to you to answer electronically. We really appreciate the support from Pure Storage and Atempo. I encourage everyone to check out the handouts tab there where you can learn more information about these exciting AI, ML, and analytics solutions and how they can help you and your company. And with that, it's time for our final prize announcement. We selected 3 winners from our audience here on the live event. We've got 3 Amazon $100 gift cards, and these are going out to, drum roll please, Brandon Vickers from Texas. Congratulations. George Cantu from California, and Nikki Barnes from Kansas. Congratulations to all 3 of our Amazon $100 gift card prize winners today. And we'll be reaching out to our best question prize winners We've got 2 of those, 2 Amazon $50 gift cards as well. We'll be reaching out to those after the event. Before you go, I want to remind you, don't forget about the handouts tab there. It's there that you'll find resources from Pure Storage and A-Tempo. You'll also find a link to the Gorilla Guide Book Club. Again, you can download free educational IT books there. And then don't forget about the new Inside the Guide, Gorilla Guide podcast. In fact, you'll be automatically redirected to the landing page for that after today's webisode. Thanks so much for everyone who joined us on this happy Friday afternoon. Hope that you have a great weekend. Hope that you enjoyed the event, and we'll see you next time. Take care.